Now, just for you, it's a little bit hairy this because the machine flew in from Japan and it arrived on Wednesday last week, and so you're really the first people, well, you are the first people to see this product. We brought it up here to Birmingham. It's actually the very first engine off the Olivetti production line in Japan, so we're not looking at a prototype or a pre-production engine. It just shows you how close we are to bringing this product to market. So I'm going to ask my lovely assistant, Alison, to do a reveal of the machine. So ladies and gentlemen, please welcome the D-Colour MF752. And of course, at this point in the presentation, I would normally invite all of you to gather around the machine. I've got a slight challenge here. With 150 or so people, that's going to be a little tricky. Now, we've just seen some very impressive productivity benefits, but before we move on, I just wanted to expand a little bit more detail on a couple of those points. Now, the first thing is both engines are shipped with the dual scan ADF document feeder, as I mentioned in the film clip. They're shipped with that as standard. And just to remind, that's 180 images per minute from two-sided originals. Now, also mentioned that both engines print an impressive 60 full-colour pages per minute at 1800 by 600 dpi called Conto. What does that mean? It means we're able to print with 6 bits of information. It's called colour depth per process colour per pixel. So it does give very, very high quality. And it really is the setting of choice if you're going to print photographs or DTP documents. But we've also introduced something brand new, which is 1200 by 1200 dpi print setting. And this has been developed for printing those very precise documents, such as maps or line drawings or vector graphics, or very small font-based documents. And you would switch this resolution in the quality tab of the print driver. However, there's a little but. If you select 1200 dpi by 1200 dpi mode, of course there's a lot of data there, the machine will slow down to approximately 25 pages per minute. And please remember this, because in the driver you'll see it listed as high quality. Talking about high quality for precise documents. Don't use it for photographs, because it only stores 1 bit of colour depth per pixel. Now, we've always had what I would say is unrivaled media handling capabilities as well. And the new range is very, very impressive in this department. But again, I just want to go into a little bit more detail on a couple of points. So just a quick reminder, you can see from the table here, the support is really extensive. 256 GSM from every paper tray, and that includes the optional large capacity cassettes and of course also the auto duplex. As I mentioned, SRA3 support from trays 1 and tray 2, 500 sheets each. Auto duplex support for SRA3, and if that's not sufficient, you can add with a large capacity cabinet a further 2,500 sheets of SRA3. One thing to be careful of, because when you go back and start getting interested in these products, it's important that, particularly if you're talking to certain clients, we don't overstress the capability of the machine. There isn't SRA3 support for booklet making or saddle stitching. That's still a restriction of the finishing capability. I mentioned bleed printing. Of course, that's one of the key benefits of SRA3. There is another one. If we take typical customers in large corporates, they'll probably have a central reprographic department. And the key thing about SRA3 for them is the fact that they might have a warehouse full of paper. They might be using SRA3 and feeding it through other technologies, such as digital presses. So the fact that they can use this SRA3 stock on an MFP means they don't need to stock other paper sizes. That's quite important. You need to take into consideration as well that the maximum printable area of SRA3 is 307mm wide. The length is not the issue, it's the width. And of course, SRA3 is 320mm wide. So yes, we can feed SRA3 paper and offer a bleed image over a standard A3 size paper. But no, this is not a production print engine. This is an office engine. It can bleed close to the full width of a 320mm if you buy a production engine. But of course, you're looking at 2, 3, 4 times the cost. The other thing to be a little bit careful with is duplex registration, because certain customers in the high volume market will be expecting production levels of duplex registration. And that tolerance is usually about 0.5mm from front side to back. Now this has got some very good functions. In fact, in the expert mode, if you're an administrator, you have some flexibility in being able to adjust the back side of the image. But again, it's not a production printing engine. So it's affordable, it does some fantastic functionality, but just don't oversell it. A couple of other new developments. We've been asked to do this, and I'm pleased to say that we can do this, and that's one of tab printing. So for those customers that have A4 insert sheets, and you've got the index tab on the right-hand side, so people can thumb through a document to get to a section, we can now print on that tab via the driver. And for the first time as well, we also have the support of feeding coated paper stock. This is something we simply couldn't recommend on previous generations of machine for various reasons, slipping with fuser rollers and so on. But we've thoroughly tested this with R&D in Japan, and the paper of choice for this particular recommendation comes from our old friends Mondi. Now you can buy Mondi branded paper from virtually every paper distributor, and the brand that we're looking for here is called Colour Copy Silk. And don't forget, just a quick reminder of the two finishes, the 50-sheet staple finisher first. Now that option's been upgraded to support 2-stroke 4-hole punching with auto switching via the driver. Previous version of this, you either had to do 2-hole or you had to do 4-hole, and it was a manual technical switch. Here we can do it via the driver. Also, just to remind you about the booklet making, it was 15 pages, but don't forget each page will hold 2 up side by side, flip it 2 up side by side on the reverse side. So 4 images per page. That's now improved to 20 pages, or effectively 80 images. And of course, we've now got the application of trifold, or folding an A4 to DL size for envelopes. On the 100-sheet staple finisher, much of it stays pretty much the same, except on the current series, you can't feed banner paper. We fixed that, so on this machine, you also feed banner paper too. And a couple of options at the bottom, just to remind you, a lot of people get trifold and Z-fold mixed up. They're very different. Trifold is what we saw on the clip, where we get the A4 folded down to DL size. The Z-fold is taking an A3, putting a Z into it, and inserting it into an A4 document. So it's very different. So there's a Z-fold option for the 100-sheet staple finisher, and if you want to insert pre-printed covers, you can do that with an optional post inserter. One of the biggest changes on this range of machine, though, has to be the control panel. And on the new series, this has been completely redesigned. Now, when I first took a look at this only on Wednesday last week, I have to say it's a small learning curve. But you know what? Now I've played with it, I won't go back. It really is stunning. This is really good. If you use a secure HTTPS address in your web browser, so because we're talking web, we could be talking 100 miles away, we could be talking 1,000 miles away, it's possible to access the Decolor MF752 series and view the actual control panel, not a facsimile, but the actual control panel of the machine. You then have a choice of locking the control panel to stop users interfacing with the machine. Maybe you need to go into certain modes, you don't want the customer to see that. If you leave the panel unlocked, this little button, just check it on the web browser, The user can then see what menus you are using remotely, which of course could help in remote training. So we've all seen that where we've had an IT issue and we've got IT people involved, and they say, look, let me take over your PC, and you see this magic mouse doing things you never thought were possible on a PC. Effectively, that's what we have now with the remote control panel. But this is the real important thing. It's not just about accessing what I would call general functions, but you can also access the administrator modes. And I think this is the real key. You can also access all of the service modes too. But unlike seeing a completely different piece of software, a different interface, you would access it as if you were standing right by the machine. So providing your customer agrees to give you access via their firewall, remote panel could be an absolutely invaluable tool. It will help reduce your support costs and also improve the speed of your customer support. Now, as you can probably gather, I only have a limited amount of time, and we've developed so many exciting new features. I think the best thing for you to do is to come on a colour course to be able to see them all. What I'm going to do is just pick a few more to do a little bit of teasing. First of all, what happens if your machine, which is controlled by Active Directory, what happens if that server goes down? Well, at the moment, most people would probably walk out the building and go and get a cup of coffee because there's nothing they can do. Well, there's a new emergency backup system that allows the last 1,000 user logins access to the MFP in the interim period, maximising the uptime of the machine. Another new feature allows you to restrict colour output by function. So in previous products, restricting a user from printing in colour would have meant that if the user sent a colour file, the document would be ripped and then dumped and then not printed, without telling the user where that file has gone. So the new system allows the colour document to be printed, but only in black and white, so at least the user has a print and you still get a meter clip. And to keep the series looking compact, keep it looking tidy, the mount kit for the optional IC card support is now hidden away behind the front panel. What about the environmental aspects of the machine? Well, we've already seen how super quick it is, warm-up time of 22 seconds. And I wasn't joking, there is one range of machines in the market that takes 20 minutes. So you can imagine if you can warm up really quickly, your carbon footprint is really low. We've got new high-definition polymerized toner with a lower melt point. We mentioned that in the film. Of course, you know about induction heating for the diffuser, and helping all of those technologies to deliver lower energy consumption. I think for those of you at the conference last year, you remember I demonstrated an energy cost calculator. And I talked about how important it is to illustrate low energy costs to your customers and how it can help to differentiate your approach. And the good news is the typical energy consumption for the deep colour MF752 series is some 25% lower than the previous range. That makes that calculator an even more powerful argument. On this chart, you can see at the top we have the MF752 compared with the typical energy cost comparison to all the competitors. The MF652 on the bottom, you can see this is the lowest energy cost that's available on the planet. This has to be a great USP to talk to customers, particularly when comparing the competition. There's also a new weekly timer that's got predictive learning. So what it will do is map out the usage of the machine over a 4-week period, and it will learn the operation of that machine and who uses it when they use it. So if people disappear on a Friday at 5 o'clock, it will shut down at 5:01. If people aren't in on the weekend, it will shut down without your programming. If people are in early on a Monday and need to be using the machine at 8 o'clock in the morning, you'll learn to switch on. So there's some really good functions to talk to customers about. So in summary, I think it really is a fantastic range of world-beating functionality that will help to keep the competition in check. And as I say, this is a production machine, the first one off the line. We're looking at availability in early July. But don't forget, these engines are additions to the current range. But you know what's great news? This is just the beginning. In the October timeframe, of course this is dependent on sell-out of the existing range, we'll also be introducing another 5 models, making 7 new models in total. And as you can see from the photograph here, it's the same look, style, and it's also the same control panel that we've already seen. And again, they offer warm-up time, somewhere between 20 and 25 seconds, depending on which model you're looking at. They all offer 1800 by 600 dpi contact. They all offer 12 by 1200 dpi 1-bit resolution for precise documents. And guess what? This is really quite special. All of them offer support for SRA3. It's restricted to Tray 2, but SRA3 support is there, and through the duplexes, and through the bypass. In fact, SRA3 right down to 22 pages per minute. In fact, more than 95% of the functionality is identical to what we've already presented, which is why we want to offer a program of workshops to make sure that your salespeople understand all of the benefits for the entire range. Learn the deep colour MF752 and you can demonstrate and sell them all. Now the colour workshops, we will cover the basics. We'll go back to even a bit of colour theory. We'll expand on that and we'll look at what makes us different to the competition. We'll focus on all of those new functions that we've had a look at. We will give all the delegates a chance to get hands-on product, make sure that they understand the key benefits and how to do the demonstration to impress. It really is back to basics. It's the old way we used to learn products. If your salespeople are confident, if they're confident in demonstrating the product, they'll be confident in selling the product. Now we'll be sending the details of these colour workshops in June. We're scheduling the first couple to run from mid-July, so please book your places early because I think they'll go pretty fast. Tying onto the back of the colour workshop training, we'll do about 10 of these with maximum delegates of about 8 per workshop. And as Dennis mentioned, it'll probably be over a couple of days. Towards the end of the year, we'll also be rolling out a demonstrator of the year competition with some exciting prizes and destinations. So ladies and gentlemen, our next generation of colour A3 MFP will set, I believe, the new colour standard in the industry. As you've seen, it's got unrivaled functionality and unrivaled media capability. I wish you great success and thank you very much for listening. And I'd like to hand back to our partner in crime, Alison.